Good morning, everybody. You might know me as that guy. Just kidding. I'm Coach Ray. Good to see everybody on a Saturday. Hope everybody's having a good start or good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. So for today's class, we're going to be working with barbells, right? So I'm actually going to incorporate stick drills into utilizing it with barbell exercises. And I picked two exercises to go over today. For today, I'm actually going to go over an overhead press as well as a row with the barbell. Now, the focus of the class is going to be effectively working on different mobility drills in order to make the overhead press a little bit more comfortable, but also work on the aspects that are important in an overhead press. And it's going to be the same thing for a row. So the structure of the class is actually going to be slightly different than usual, but it's just to make sure that we can actually adequately work on those areas that may potentially be weak links and work on the technical aspects of those particular lifts. Now, I'm not going to really use heavy weight. It's not the point, but we are going to actually try to make sure we work on some of those technical aspects that may potentially even be missing in your own programming. So for today's class, I do have a barbell. You can have some weights with you, depending on whatever you're most comfortable with. I have a rack behind me. The rack is going to be used not only to set up for the overhead press or to put the barbell in the rack, but we're also going to use it for a overhead press drill in order to warm up the shoulder blades and the shoulders and even the spine a little bit by stacking, right? We're going to stack the spine, stack the shoulders, stack the head. We're going to make sure everything's working efficiently before we actually get into loading it up. So when we do load it up, we're in a better position. Now, we're going to need access to all three sticks. We're also going to need access to a pad because the pad is going to be for us to kneel on for that rack drill that we're going to get into a little bit later. However, we're going to start off with the short stick. Look at that. Enough talking here, right? So we're going to start off with some kayaking. We're just going to use this as a way to kind of quickly warm up the shoulders here. I'm going to have my fingertips at the ends of the stick, right? Not gripping. And I want to have my feet roughly about shoulder width, toes are pointed forward. I'm going to start with that right hand up. You want to make sure you keep your elbows in extension. And I'm going to drive that right shoulder, right hand forward. Left shoulder comes up and over. And then drive the left arm through. Right shoulder comes up and over. You should be getting a lot of movement in the scapula here. So we're just trying to get some movement. Breathe. Nice and easy. All the drills we're going to do today are going to be upper body focused, since that's what we're mainly focusing on. Good. Keep a nice, good pace. Excellent. Let's go backwards. So you want the hand, when it's coming back and down, to get real close to the hip. Close as you can. Getting as much range as you can. Good. 3, 2, 1. Good. Excellent. Now we're going to go pendulums. We're just going to use this as a way to kind of get the shoulders moving, kind of open them up a little bit. We're still going to go with that same stance width. Toes are going to be forward. Fingertips are still on the end of the stick here. However, now what we're going to do is we're going to push that left hand straight over towards the midline, and we want that right hand to come up overhead. Then we're going to push that right hand down. We're only going about 20 to 30%. Left hand comes up overhead. Good. Switch. Should be getting a nice good stretch in the shoulder here. Try to keep your head level. Don't want to end up being like this. Want to be upright. Switch. Right hand up. Good. Left hand up. Good. Let's switch each side one more time. Right hand up overhead. Good. And left hand up overhead. Back down. And ease off. We're going to flip our grip over to a double overhand grip. We're going to go some dislocates. We're just going to use this again, kind of warm up those shoulders. We're just going to get some glenohumeral joint movement. Go with a wide grip, as wide as whatever's necessary. Do not start narrow, and how far your grip is going to depend on how mobile you are. So from here, keeping my arms straight, I want to lightly drive my shoulders down, and I want to squeeze my glutes, keep my ribs down. I'm going to pull the stick apart, 20% tension, and I'm going to bring the stick up overhead, and we're going to go all the way up and over. Breathe. Come back up. Pulling apart the entire time. Just 1. Up and over. Good. That's 2. Nice, good control. Up and over. 3. Good. Let's go 2 more. Try moving your hands in a slight bit closer. Up and over. 4. Excellent. Let's go 1 more time. Up and over. Back up. 5. Good. Excellent. We're going to place the short stick down. We're going to pick up the 2 long sticks here. I'm going to adjust the camera just a little bit. Get that a little further back. So now we're going to stretch out the chest. So we're going to go with about roughly hip width stance. Toes are going to be forward. I'm going to go with the sticks being in line with my toes here, and my hands are going to be roughly about chin level. I want the sticks to go straight out to the side here. From this position, I'm going to lightly drive the sticks down 20%, and I'm going to hinge back. And I'm trying to get my torso basically parallel to the floor. Now, as I'm here, the sticks are in line with my shoulders. They're not above or below, they're just in line with the shoulders here. And we're just going to get a hang, and you should be feeling a stretch in the pecs. You're going to get a little bit in the anterior delt, shoulders, and maybe even a little bit in the biceps. We're going to breathe. Going to slowly come back up. Excellent. We're going to change what part of the chest we're stretching. We're going to get into that pec minor a little bit. So now I'm going to go to a Y shape with the sticks. Now from here, same thing. We're going to lightly drive those sticks down 20%, and then I'm going to hinge back and try to get my torso to the floor. Now you should be feeling a little bit more towards the anterior delt. That pec minor is a really small muscle, but it has a lot to do with overhead mobility. If it's super tight, it's going to be really challenging to get to that overhead position. Breathe. Excellent. Come back up. Good. Now we're going to bring the both sticks forward directly in front here. We're going to drive those hips back, reach the hands out. Now we're going to start to open up that T-spine a little bit as well. Breathe. Now we're going to start to so we're going to stay in this position. We're going to start to bring those hands out. Bring them down to the side, back to that chest stretch position. Good, bring them back overhead. Good, stand up and ease off. Excellent. Now we're going to place one stick down. We're going to get into stretching out those lateral lines. So we're going to get into the bow and arrow. However, we're going to add a little bit of tension in just to get a little bit more of effectiveness out of it. So we're going to go with the hip width stance, toes are forward. The bottom of the stick is going to be about 6 inches from the outside of my foot here, lined up with midfoot. My left hand's going to be about roughly waist height. I'm going to take my right hand, come up over the top, thumb facing down towards the floor, and I'm going to drive my hips away and extend my hands out. Now, once I get to full extension, I'm going to lightly pull up with that top hand. So you're going to get tension on that lateral line here. Breathe. Bring it back in nice and slow. Ease off. rotate the stick, and we're gonna do that again. Drive the hips away, extend those hands out. Good. Pull up with that top hand, only about 20%, nothing too crazy. Just trying to get some tension there. Excellent, back in, nice and easy, good. Now we're gonna switch sides. Sticks on the right side of the body, right hand's roughly about waist height. Left hand up over the top, thumb facing down. Drive those hips away. Now extend those hands out. Pull up with that top hand. Breathe. Back in, nice and easy. Good. Rotate the stick. Drive the hips away. Extend both hands out. Pull up. 3, 2, 1. Ease off. Nice and slow. Now, this is where we're going to get into the rack. Now, I'm going to change the camera angle to be over here a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the rack, again, as a way to work on that overhead pressing mobility. So we're going to be in a tall kneeling position, and we're going to need to be in really, really good control of the rib cage and the pelvis. As we're in a tall kneeling position, we're just effectively eliminating the lower body from this mobility drill. So I'm going to take a pad, something to kneel on. Now, the rack, or the J-hooks, are effectively set up at a high position. So basically roughly about eye level here. This is just to ensure that it's at a good height, because the position we're going to be working with is a locked out position. Now, I'm going to get into a tall kneeling position here. Notice that the stick is really, really close. If I'm staying upright, the stick's effectively on my chest here. Again, we just want to make sure we're stacked over the hips and the spine, at least in terms of hand placement. Now, where your grip is going to basically depend on you. If you have really good shoulder mobility and it's more comfortable for you to press with a more narrow grip, then go with a more narrow grip. However, you can always go with something a little bit wider based on what feels most comfortable in your shoulders and your mechanics. Now, what I'm going to do from this position is I'm going to bring the stick up to the J-hooks. I'm going to make sure I get my position right. Effectively, I want the stick to be over my head. Now, from this position, I'm going to drive my feet into the floor and squeeze my glutes. This is just to make sure my hips are in extension here. Now, my hands are going to be roughly about where I would press. So for me, it's a little wider than shoulder width. And from this position, I want to drive my rib cage down. So you're going to feel your core turn on, and you should. Now from this position, I'm going to extend my arms up, driving my hands up towards the ceiling. I'm going to go about 40%. We're going to hold for about 8 to 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Ease off. Bring the stick down. Take a second. Now, as you're in that position, you don't want your shoulders to shrug up. You want your shoulder blades to move down and upwardly rotate. So it's not a shrug, it's driving the hands up. Let's go again. So get in position, drive the feet down, squeeze the glutes, ribs down, and drive the stick up. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. Off. Take a second. We're going to go 2 more here. Again, we're just going to use this as a way to kind of work on that extension or locking the barbell overhead. All right, let's get in set position again. Drive the feet down, squeeze the glutes, drive the ribs down, push those hands up. Three, 2, 1. Excellent. Ease off. We're going to go one more time. If you're feeling your mid-back working, that's good. If you're feeling your shoulders working, your shoulder blades working, that's also good. What you don't want to feel is your lower back working. All right? One last time. Squeeze the glutes, Hips down, and drive those hands up. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Ease off. Take a second. Now we're going to come back up. Don't need the pad for now. Just want to go one last drill. And this is going to be working with compressing the stick. So pulling apart, compressing the stick as we go into an overhead press. And so for this one here, I'm going to grab the shorter stick. And so this is where you need to figure out where your pressing grip is, right? You can go, again, some people like to go a little wider. That's fine. Some people like to go a little more narrow. This is something that's completely unique to you and whatever's most comfortable. For me, I tend to go a little wider than shoulder width. So when I bring the bar up to here, my hands are roughly or close to being stacked over my elbow. I don't like to go with the W position. I like to go with a more stacked position. So from here, what I want to do, I'm going to turn to the side a little bit too. What you want to keep control of is, again, the rib cage. So you don't want to be here. You want to kind of keep that rib cage down a little bit, not too much. Now from this position, I'm going to grip the stick and I'm going to squeeze my glutes. That's the first part because you need to drive your feet into the floor. Make sure you got a good stable lower body. Now from this position, I'm going to try to shorten. So I'm going to compress the stick at about 30% tension from this position. And then I'm going to drive the stick up overhead slowly, under control, all the way to lockout. Breathe. Now I'm going to pull the stick apart and I'm going to bring it down. Nice and easy. Move your head back a bit. Back to that front rack position. If I turn to the side, from here, compress, drive the stick up, hold, pull the stick apart, back down. Let's go one more time. Compress, up. You want to make sure that stick is stacked overhead as much as you can. Pull apart. And back down. Excellent. Good. Now we're going to place or set up your squat rack or your J hooks to be at a height that is good for you. So for me, I like to have the J hooks roughly at the height of my shoulders. Don't want to find that you're having a hard time picking it up off the rack, right? So find a good height for the J hooks for you. If you don't have a squat rack, if you don't have a J hook, that's fine. You just will need to find a way to get it up to the shoulders, however safely. Now the first set, we're going to do without weight. And we're going to use this as a way to warm up. Now as we start to get into the sets, because we're only going to do 3 sets, we're going to do 1 set without weight, 2 sets with weight, and we're just trying to focus on making sure that we got good positioning, good technique, and also good control of the barbell. All right. So again, for myself, I'm not going that heavy. Also, if you have collars, be the perfect time to grab them. Right, so this first set, this is just our set to kind of see how everything feels, how the shoulders feel, so on and so forth. Place the collars down. So walking up to the barbell, and ideally I would press this outside of the rack, but figure out where your hand grip is going to be. So for me, I look at the knurling or I look at the rings on a knurling, and that's a way for me to kind of see exactly where my hands are, make sure I'm setting up correctly or setting up the same exact way every time. So I'm going to get my hand grip down, and I'm going to step forward. And I'm going to bring my elbows under the barbell, all right? Don't stand back and pull it off the rack. You want to get it set up to where I pull my elbows under, and when I stand up, I'm clear of the rack here. I'm going to step back, get into position. So my feet are roughly about shoulder width, squeezing my glutes here, and I have my elbows under the barbell, not in front, but under. Now from here, we're going to press up. I'm going to move my chin back, press up, and extend. Kind of drive my head forward, and then we're going to come back down. Repeat that again. Press up. 2. Press. 3. Press. 4. Press. 5. Press. 6. 2 more. Press. 7. One more time. And press. 8. Bring it back down. Walk forward. Get into the rack. And set the bar down. All right. So, always want to do it safely. Make sure that the bar is set at the right height. If it's not at the right height, adjust it. Also, it's a little bit better if the bar is a slight bit lower as opposed to being a slight bit higher. Now, if you want to add weight to the bar, now's the time to do it. So, the focus here is technique, right? Not how much weight you're pushing. So if you have a hard time keeping your technique, then do not be afraid to lower the weight. Now in terms of your pressing motion, naturally there's going to be a slight bit of a curve. And I do mean slight. So as you're pressing, you do want to try to keep it, again, everything is stacked, going from this position up. But notice it's going to be a tiny bit of a curve. You don't want to poke your head through super hard either. You want to keep your chin kind of packed. All right, so let's go ahead and get set up here. We're going to get under the bar. Again, step forward. Bar should be really close to the collarbone. And we're going to bring our elbows under the barbell, up, step back, get your positioning. Let's just go 5 good reps. Squeeze the glutes, push. 1, up, 2, up, 3, up, 4, up, 5, down, forward, and get into the rack. Good. Take a second, let your shoulders take a little bit of a break. So you can add some of those drills in to kind of warm up, again, for an overhead press. So some of the drills that we did are gonna be specific to working with that shoulder blade movement, but also spinal angle, which actually really matters when you're doing an overhead. You don't wanna hyperextend that low back. You actually don't wanna extend that low back at all. That's why keeping your glutes tight for this drill, or this exercise, is extremely important. Now we're gonna go one more set. It's gonna take a second. We're not doing a lot of reps, but we're just focused on the technique. So I'm gonna get my grip down again. Okay. Step forward, get the elbows under the barbell, unrack, step back. We got 5 presses. Press, 1, press, 2, press, 3, press, 4, one more time, press, 5, and re-rack. Excellent, good. So, Good way to work on that technique, work on the aspects that are important. Start off with the lighter weight, get really, really good at that, increase the volume from there, and then you can move into working with a little bit of heavier weight once you get more comfortable with the technical aspects. Now, we're gonna shift gears. We're gonna go into working with a barbell row. Now, realistically, this is gonna be relatively simple. And the barbell row is gonna be very similar to a deadlift, which we will go over next week. Save the fun stuff for the funner stuff, because I personally love deadlifts, for another time. Now, as you start to work with certain types of movement, especially if you need to keep a certain position, a loaded position, I like to go with certain techniques, especially when teaching people, of how to start off in a position that's going to be most comfortable. So, a barbell row is a hinge, nonetheless. Now, if you have issues with positioning or even your back and how your back feels, that could be potentially due to you not bracing your core hard enough. So you need to treat this as if it's a deadlift. Your core needs to be tight the entire time. Now we're going to take a short stick and we're going to practice that movement. Now, for me, when I do a barbell row, I like to go with a stance that's very similar to my deadlift stance. So I tend to go with a roughly shoulder width stance, maybe a slight bit more narrow. You can have your toes pointed forward or you can have your toes pointed out, whatever allows you to get to the best position possible. I'm going to have the stick in front, double overhand grip, and I have my hands slightly wider than my hips here. This is just preference. You can go a slight bit wider if you'd like. Now from this top position, and I'm going to have my arms straight, I'm going to hinge back like I'm doing an RDL. And I want to get my torso relatively parallel to the floor. So if I turn to the side, I want to be here, right? Keep it parallel to the floor. Now from that position, you should keep control of the ribs, core's engaged. Really, really tight, just to make sure we're not getting any excessive movement in that lumbar area. So from here, I'm going to go into a hinge, driving my hips back. Core is tight. Once I get to my position, I'm going to pull the stick apart. This is going to get my upper back active. We're going to go at 40% tension. And now I'm going to pull the stick up, and I'm going to bring it right above my belly button. That's kind of my sweet spot. And then I'm going to go back down, pulling apart still at 40%. Pull up. Nice and slow, keep pulling apart, back down, good, pull up, back down, good, stand up, squeezing those glutes, and ease off. Now we're going to do that again. This time we're going to put a little more emphasis on the shoulders or shoulder blades and how they're moving. So when you're doing a row, or when you're doing certain lat exercises, the shoulder blade needs to be pulled down towards the hips. Always going towards the hips. If you're standing up, I'm driving them down. If I'm hinged, they're going in the same direction as my hips the entire time. That engages the lat, but your shoulder blades are going to naturally retract as you pull up and protract as you actually go into extension. So we're going to get set in that position again with the stick. Hands a little wider than shoulder width. Or hip width, I should say, sorry. I'm going to hinge. Now, once I get positioned, I want you to actively pull your shoulders away from your ears. You're going to feel a lot more engagement on those lats. So now that you're pulling here, pull the stick apart, 40% tension again. Now you're going to come up to that sweet spot. Now you're going to feel those shoulder blades retract. And then go back down, pulling apart the entire time. One, pull. So pulling the stick apart. Down, two. Let's go one more. Pull the stick apart. Excellent. Down. And 3. Squeeze the glutes to stand up. And ease off. Now we're going to place the short stick down. And we're going to use a barbell. Now you should be feeling some load and some tension in those hamstrings. That's the good thing about a barbell row is you can actually secondarily work on the hamstrings as well. So I'm going to get set up in my foot position. Once we put on the weights, you'll kind of be deadlifting the weight up. So from here, go ahead and figure out your grip width and where you're most comfortable with. I'm going to come up. And we're going to do that same thing. We're not pulling the barbell apart. We don't need to do that at this point. But we are going to hinge back, keep the core nice and tight, get to that position where you feel most comfortable. From this position here, pull the shoulders down, away from the ears, towards your hips, put them in your back pocket. And now we're going to start to row. Pull up to that sweet spot. 1, pull, 2, pull, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. Place the bar down. Take a second. This is where you grab your weights, put them on with collars. So we use the same weight that I did overhead presses with. So with these, core needs to be really tight. I cannot emphasize that enough. You're effectively holding a loaded hinge for a relatively extended period of time. Also, try to keep this as strict as you can, meaning you don't want a whole lot of movement, right? You're not jerking the bar around, but instead you're pulling a bar towards you. You want to keep that excessive movement very, very minimal. It's a lot different when the weight starts to get a little submaximal, upwards of 80, 85, 90%. That's where you can probably get a little bit of momentum, a little bit of movement. That's fine. But the weight should be light enough for you to do it pretty strict here. So the barbell is set up here. And I'm going to, again, effectively line up the same way I would for a deadlift. So figure out your stance width. I'm going to hinge, drop down to receive the bar, get my grip width going. I'll actually turn to the side here so you can kind of see. I'm going to grip width going, come down, and I'm going to stand all the way up, squeeze the glutes. Now we can load that position. So I'm going to hinge back, keeping my shoulder blades going towards my hips. Now we start to row. Let's go 8 reps. Pull. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more time. 8. Face down and ease off. Your mid back's going to be working. That's normal. You don't want your low back to be kicking into gear. If you start feeling your low back a lot, we're not bracing. We're missing that importance of keeping that core engaged. Now we're going to get a little bit of pre-lat activation here by actually working on shoulder extension. So we're going to go with an internally rotated shoulder position. So double overhand. Now it's going to stand over the barbell here. So we're going to go with a shoulder hip to shoulder width stance here. And if my toes are pointed forward, I'm going to squeeze my glutes. So arms need to be straight. And from this position here, arms straight, I'm going to pull the stick apart. And I want to drive my shoulders down. Same cue when we're doing the row. Shoulders down, squeeze the glutes. And now I'm going to lift or pull the stick back away from my glutes and I'm gonna hold that position. Pulling apart, about 30 to 40% tension here. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. Back in. Ease off. Take a second. We're gonna do that again. Let's up it to 50% here. Arms straight. Squeeze the glutes. Pull the stick apart. Let's go 50% and pull the stick away from your glutes. Breathe. 3, 2, 1. Back in and ease off. Lats should be feeling pretty active here. We're going to get one more set of the rows. So we're going to go 8 reps again. If you feel like pushing it a little bit more, go a few more reps. So we're going to get set up again. Same stance. Again, this is effectively a deadlift to the top position, and then hinge into that position that you'll be most comfortable in. So we're going to go down, hinge back, grab the bar, lift the bar up, squeeze those glutes. Now from here, we're going to hinge. Get to that position, driving those shoulder blades down towards my hips. Rope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sit back down and ease off. Good. So, real easy way to kind of incorporate a deadlift and overhead press. The technical aspects are simple, but those cues are actually kind of easy to forget, especially as time goes on. If you're feeling like your low back is just getting absolutely fried when you're doing deadlifts, you need to rethink your technique. If you're not feeling your lats engage and you're getting a lot of trap movement, again, that's where the technical aspects come in of you being aware of where your shoulders are setting as you're actually doing the exercise. So now we're gonna get into some stretching, folks. So we're going to start our cool down here. I'm going to push the barbell over to the side since it is no longer needed at this point in time. First thing we're going to get into is a double stick hang. So we're going to decompress that spine a little bit. So I'm going to have my right foot forward, left foot back. I want my left foot to be in line with my left hip. Don't want to go out wide here. Bottom of the sticks are behind the heel of my front foot. So they're about roughly 6 inches behind the heel of my right foot here. Both hands are up nice and high. And I'm going to sink down into a hang. And this is actually going to feel good on the shoulders and the lats here. You want to breathe. Good, we're gonna switch sides. So bring left foot forward, right foot back. Same thing, arms are straight up. Drop that back leg down. Get a nice good hang here. Breathe, good, we're gonna come out. We're going to switch again. Now we're going to add in rotations. Hands are up. Drop that back leg down. Now we're going to lightly drive the sticks into the floor. So you're going to get those shoulders, your shoulder blades are kind of pulled down. And I'm going to rotate left and right. Or right and left. Right. Left. Right, and left. Back to center, up, and switch. Rotate the sticks a little bit. Drop down, drive the sticks into the floor, rotate left, right, left, right. One more time each way, left and right. Back to center, come up, excellent, and ease off. I'm gonna place one stick down. Now we're gonna get into a little bit of an advanced bow and arrow here. So I'm gonna take a relatively wide stance. We just worked those last a little bit, so this is actually gonna feel really good. I'm gonna have the bottom of the stick almost in line with my center line here, but it's on the inside of my foot, so roughly about 6 inches towards my center line on the inside of my foot here. Left hand is roughly about waist height. Gonna take my right hand, let me scoot this over, come up over the top, thumb facing down. Now the direction we're driving is diagonally, going down. So I'm gonna push hips away first because that's always a part of the movement. And then I'm going to drive my left hand down, out. Gonna get a nice big stretch on the lats. We're not pulling up with that top hand. Breathe. Gonna slowly come up. Excellent. Rotate the stick a bit. We're gonna do that one more time. Drive the hips away. Extend those hands out. Breathe. Excellent. Slowly come up. Wonderful. Now we're going to switch sides. Sticks on the opposite side here. Right hand is roughly about waist height. Left hand up over the top. Drive the hips away. Extend that right hand out. Excellent. Back in. Nice and easy. Rotate the stick a bit. We're gonna go again. Drive those hips away. Extend those hands out. Breathe. Excellent. And ease off. We're gonna get into one last stretch. We're gonna do the snake and reach. This is where we need the pad. Now remember, this is kind of an intense stretch. So you don't want the stretch to be a 10 out of 10, not a 9 out of 10, not even an 8 out of 10. You want this to be more like a 4 or a 5. So we're gonna go to a tall half kneeling position. Right knee is down, left leg is forward. I'm gonna bring my left leg out a bit. So I'm going to widen that angle out, kind of like at a 45-degree angle. The bottom of the stick is gonna be roughly about mid-thigh here. My right hand is gonna come up over the top with my thumb facing down. I'm gonna snake my left shoulder through. So I'm gonna bring my left shoulder through, and I want the stick to be under my shoulder blade. Now from here, I'm gonna walk my hand up as high as I can, reaching up nice and high. For a lot of people, this might be a stretch. So if you're getting a stretch here, hold this position. If you want a little bit more of a stretch, you can take the bottom of the stick, move it towards your center line, and then wiggle that left foot in more. Gonna hold this position here. Breathe. Excellent. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna rotate in and out, so I'm gonna kind of floss it here. So keeping my hand down, I'm gonna rotate my shoulders to my left, then back to center, rotate left, back to center, rotate left. Good, one more time, rotate left. Excellent. Walk your left foot out, bring the bottom of the stick out, walk your hand down, and then come out of it. Let's go ahead and switch over to the other side here. So left knee down, right leg is forward. Again, bring that right leg out. Stick is about roughly mid-thigh. Left hand up over the top, thumb facing down. Snake that right shoulder through. Get it under that shoulder blade, walk that hand up. Good. If you want, again, we can bring the bottom of the stick towards the center line. Get a little more of a stretch. Breathe. Now we're going to rotate those shoulders to the right. We're going to floss this. We're going to do 4 reps. Rotate to the right. Back to center. Rotate. Back to center. Rotate. Good. Back to center. One more time. Rotate. Back to center. Excellent. Walk your right foot out. Bring the bottom of the stick over. Walk that left hand down. Nice and easy. Come out. And that concludes today's stick mobility class. Thanks for joining me, everybody, for today's class. And I'm going to be doing some barbell work this month. So next week, I do want to go over deadlifts. So we're going to keep that one a little. It's going to be a little bit of a different class, but again, just trying to work on the technical aspects. We'll have some fun with that next week. But have a good weekend. Stay safe. Catch y'all next time.